So, this sort of dynamic where we become generalists that are connecting through others and other sources of information is clearly something that's going to stay with us for the next period.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of new contemporary fancy words for it, but I think that it's very much just a techno hierarchy of needs.
Right.
As Maslow used to talk about. I mean, I think that, we've reached a tipping point where the ubiquity of information, the speed at which that information is accessible, now allows us to ultimately self-actualize in a way that we really have never been able to do before. It's fascinating, it's amazing, and we actually talk about the concept of daylighting a lot. It's sort of like, before Facebook and before YouTube and before the fact that, all of the world's information can fit in your pocket in the form of a BlackBerry or an iPhone, you had to moonlight, meaning you had to really explore your passions in the hours that you weren't working your 9-to-5 job.
Right.
But now we can all daylight because you can, I think Google even enforces this as one of their cultures of...
Absolutely, the culture of innovation.
Right, the culture of innovation, right? I mean, thankfully, technology now allows us to really, feel expressed in ways that we were never able to before, and I think that only amazing things are going to come from that.
Yeah, I think it extends the reach of every single one of us, and it's funny, there's this guy, Rene Dalder, who created a website called spacecollective.org, which I love. He speculates about the future of Earth-based terrestrials, and he says that if you think about it today, we do most of our mind work in a shared space with 1.5 billion other minds. Okay?
Right.
And so in a way, we're kind of like, each of us are synapses, and this is like superorganism in a way. Like when you study the wisdom of crowds and the decisions that are happening when all these people are participating in things at once, it's no different than when you study an individual ant or you study an ant in a herd. They exhibit this sophisticated behavior in a group that maybe we're not aware of because we still live in sort of this individuated consciousness, but the behavior of these 1.5 billion minds, I'm sure, studied from the outside, is probably really remarkable.
Well, and you can imagine why that creates incredible tension between this new phenomenon and top-down, hierarchical broadcast media and corporate and government institutions, which suddenly were structured, for a long time were structured that way to exercise control for all the understandable reasons. And now they're rattled by the fact that they're losing control because everything's being democratized, whether it's information, whether it's activism, whether it's the political process, and suddenly business is being forced to reconstitute itself and engage in an authentic two-way dialogue with a lot of people at once, which is terrifying for all the obvious reasons.
It's terrifying, but it's also interesting to see, long-standing corporations with Twitter accounts, and you're just, like, who's behind those, it's definitely fascinating. You wonder if that is going to last or if people are going to sort of begin to question its authenticity.
Well, I think, like anything in life, I think there are certain timeless principles. An authentic, deep engagement with another person is always valued. But if you're trying to outsource it to sweep engines or to bots, people just get a sense that you're not being genuine. It's not authentic to you, and it doesn't matter how you nuance the algorithm and so on. They just know that it's not really coming from a place of authenticity and congruency with the values of that brand, and then they will slowly move away, or the conversation will move elsewhere anyway. So
yes, I think that what we're going to see is people are going to expect more from the brands that they are loyal to. There was somebody told me this the other day, that if you they did this study with like two toothpaste brands, and one of them supported a social cause with some of the proceeds, and the other one didn't. I think people preferred the one that supported the cause by 89%. So because you can sort of learn more about your brands, I think brands are realizing that it's better to align themselves with things that are positive. So I think in a way, that scrutiny that the internet allows is forcing people to make better decisions of how they run businesses, and maybe capitalism is going to have to rebrand itself and be called conscious capitalism, or capitalism with social value, because people are going to demand it, because they're going to be aware of all the other options that are out there because of the ubiquitous nature of information.
Obviously you see that from the early days of either cause marketing through corporate social responsibility, through conscious capitalism now, and it's such a simple equation. If you want to connect with meaning in somebody's life, you need to do something meaningful to them. And when something is in the service of the greater good, then you're instantly connecting with them. But if you're purely acting out of self-interest, it's a lot harder job to win them over, either to earn their loyalty, their goodwill, or their purchasing power at the cash register. So if you were going to speak to other people out there who are trying to launch a personal brand like Max and Jason, any hard-won lessons on the way through that you'd want to share?
Well, at the risk of sounding I mean, I don't want to say cliche, but sometimes these like basic truths, they hold well even in the new world. And I say follow your bliss, you know, as Joseph Campbell, one of our heroes, he always talks about. Make sure that whatever your brand is, it reflects something that you're genuinely passionate about. And in this new world, I mean, we call ourselves daylighters. It's a world where technology allows you to articulate the things that you're passionate about during the day and integrate it and have it be infused with what you do for a living in many ways. And I think just be true to that. Don't sell yourself short, because it'll come back and bite you in the ass.
And Max, how do we see Current TV? Where do we reach them online?
Well, Current TV is available on all the major web platforms. You can go to current.com, of course, and you know, Current's on Twitter. You can reach out to us, twitter.com/MaxandJason, and you can see more of our show at current.com/stillup.
All right. I hope that was helpful and useful. And thanks very much, Max and Jason, for your time.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. That was great.